Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Parallax Abstraction, and welcome to another episode of Retro Flashback, showcasing gaming's roots for a new generation. And yes, if you've been watching this series up to now, the first thing you're saying is, holy crap, do I sound an awful lot better now? And yes, indeed. Man, it has been a long journey getting here, but I finally got my awesome new mics and my new mixer and got them all set up. So, a lot of stuff going forward on this channel is going to sound a hell of a lot better. This cost me a decent chunk of change and no end of aggravation to figure out the optimal solution for this, but I think this is going to work out really, really well, and I hope you guys like it. I've got a couple of these mics, so all together now is going to start sounding a lot better as well. And yeah, this has been a big accomplishment in its own way for me. So I'm really, really glad that we got this up and running, and I really look forward to doing a lot more content with this stuff. Hopefully you guys will like how much better it sounds. I recorded a little vlog on the channel that explains the equipment that I got and sort of what it's going to mean and stuff going forward. So if you're more interested in that, go check that out. Anyway, enough about that. So, what are we looking at today? We are looking at ActRaiser for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, known to many, including myself, as one of the best ever Super Nintendo games, even though it was a very early, almost a launch title, actually. And yeah, this is a very, very unique title. There's only 2 games in this series. The second one is quite a bit different from this one, but this game is very, very unique, especially in the early console space, because it combines action platforming and sort of a little bit of city building, and it does it in a way that's quite unique and actually works really, really well. It's kind of a god game in its way. And also this game features a soundtrack by the legendary Yuzo Koshiro, one of Japan's best video game musicians, in my opinion. He also did the soundtrack for Streets of Rage, which I did a video of before. And you'll hear as I play this that his talent is just all over this thing. It's really quite something. I actually have wanted to do this video pretty much since I started Retro Flashback, but this is actually going to be a longer video because this game has a lot of gameplay mechanics and elements to talk about. And I decided, no, you know what, this is one of my favorite games, and I really, really wanted to wait until I could give this the production value treatment it deserves, and now that I got this snazzy new audio gear, that's exactly what I can do. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing this, so let's dig into it. I am playing this on the Wii Virtual Console, where you can acquire this game. Thankfully, Square did make it available, or rather, well, Square Enix, I guess, is who they are now. This game was actually published when it was just Enix in 1991, and of course, those companies merged a number of years ago. And this was developed by Quintet, which is a company that made several really interesting games in the Super Nintendo era. Sadly, they kind of just disappeared. They never actually really fully went out of business, as far as I know. They just stopped making games. And it's kind of a shame because they did some pretty interesting stuff. So you start off here in your Sky Palace, which is sort of your main hub, I guess, and where you get stuff started. So you have this little angel who's kind of your advisor and gives you some little story elements and initially sort of tutorializes you and guides you through some of what you need to do. So this game does some very interesting stuff. As I said, it's a combination of a platformer action game and a city building game. You have to do both. There are elements to each. Basically, each of the game's several different levels starts and ends with an action sort of level, I guess. It's a single level. And then after that comes the city building element, where you're supposed to build your civilization up and get them and clear the monsters out of the land, and you're just basically supposed to go through the world and sort of purge evil from it, if you will. So when you have a few different things you can do here, the menus in this game are not exactly the most intuitive things, but as you can see, these are the different cities that you will eventually get into. We haven't started anything yet, obviously, so there's not much to see, but we are in Fillmore right now. And this is the status of Master, or i.e. your character, because you're basically God in this area. So you can move around. This is the whole world here that you will eventually have to purge of evil and claim as your own, or rather have your citizens claim for you. So you see here there's a little bit of a variety in the land, but We have to start off at Fillmore, which is the sort of basic tutorial area. And obviously you can observe your people if you want, but we don't have anybody here yet, so we don't have too much that we can do except to fight monsters. Sure. And of course, this wouldn't be a Super Nintendo game, and in particular, a launch Super Nintendo game without Mode 7. Oh yes, look at that pixelation. Oh man. I still think Mode 7 was cool. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, it was kind of janky, but you know what? It was also pretty awesome. So here we go. Action time. And, listen to that Yuzo Koshiro score. God, that guy is so talented. What this guy was able to do with fairly primitive music hardware is nothing short of astounding. But yeah, go watch the Streets of Rage video if you want to hear me gush on his talent. So, this is a pretty much straight-up action platformer section that we're playing right now. It's not the best in the world. As you can see here, basically the attacks are fairly basic. I've got my jump, I've got my swing, and in this starting area at least, that's pretty much all you got. There are worse games than this, but this does not have the fluid combat mechanics of, say, you know, a Castlevania or something of that nature. As you can see as well, though, the levels are not purely linear. There are sort of little hidden areas and paths you can take, especially with these... I am really bombing this out here because I'm talking so much. There are these little paths and sort of zipline areas and stuff that you can take advantage of if you want to get additional power-ups. The levels are timed, as you can see, but you don't have, you know, you're not exactly under the gun here. At least when you're not getting horribly murdered. But yeah, you're not under the gun time-wise, so you definitely have the ability to sort of take your time and explore the level if you want. Personally, the platforming in this, you know, I'm a big fan of platformers and action platformers. And as I said, the action in this game is not bad, but it's not stellar either, so I'm probably not going to spend a lot of time in here. My favorite part of this is the city building aspect. And I mean, the city building aspect compared to, say, games like a Sim City or, you know, a Populous even, or a lot of those different series is not... It's not the world's most advanced either. This game sort of... It does two things. It does pull two fairly disparate genres together, and it actually does do that fairly well. Crazy cliff log there. But at the same time, they're not pinnacles of their genre either. You know, this definitely does not have the complexity or the depth of dedicated games in either platforming or city building genres, but at the same time it's accessible, and while it's definitely light versions of those genres, it's still deep enough to be fun, but you don't have to maybe engage your brain as heavily, shall we say, in some of these other ones. So here you gotta ride these crazy angry tree things to get across the ground below, which is all covered in thorns. I don't know why they're all like, yeah, we'll transport you. And you see the level, at least this first level, is relatively short, and we've got this first boss here. Now, this boss, I'm not going to lie, he's pretty easy to cheese. His pattern is very obvious, and if you stand against this wall here, he actually can't hurt you at all. So in the interest of time and sort of getting through this so I can show you the RTS section, or the city building section, not have this video be 17 hours long, I'm just going to kind of cheese him up here. The platforming levels definitely do get harder. The bosses definitely do get much more challenging as you get further on in the game. I have finished this game, not in a long time, but I have finished this multiple times, and the levels are definitely not all this easy. They're all fairly similar length. They're like arcade platformer length, I guess you'd say, but they do get much more challenging later. So you see, I cheesed him out there, and now in true platformer fashion, I'm going to get score bonus based on the time left and how many lives I had left, and then it refills my life. And off I go. Now we enter the real fun part of this game. So, here we are. So, 2 people have sprung from lightning because that's how babies get made. So what we can do here is we are never represented in the city building section. We can control the little angel guy here. And he has an unlimited supply of arrows that we can use. So what we have to do is seal all the monster layers and to try to build as big and as prosperous a city as we can before we take on the boss, which is what we get the second platforming section for. So, this level here is mostly tutorializing, but you nonetheless get to see the sort of meat and potatoes of this game. So, the people are saying, oi, we can't build any bushes, or we can't build any, bushes. We can't build any homes because there's too many bushes. So, what the heck? That little tiny angel butt always kind of creeps me out a little bit. So, you see here, we have got these enemy layers. The enemies in the levels vary, and depending on the types of enemies that they are, they have different types of attacks and AI behaviors. So you see that these creepy bird things are flying around and trying to come at me, and they will eventually try to steal your citizens as well. So you can take them out with the angel, but ultimately what you want to do is have your citizens build out their town to where their layers are so they destroy them, right? So here's what we can do. So you remember they said, hey, we got to get rid of these bushes, right? So you can bring up the menu here, and you see that there's various different kinds of miracles that you can perform. So miracles require... So you see you can destroy a bunch of different things. Will I use lightning? Yes, I will. So let's use it right here. So as you can see there in the upper right, my SP, or I believe that stands for spell points, went down. So you can only use miracles as long as you have spell points available. And different miracles require different amounts of spell points, obviously. The way you regain spell points, as you see here, is by taking out monsters. When you do that, you get a little bit of spell points back from each of them. Pretty straightforward, right? So we're going to clear out a little bit more here, and then I'm going to get the citizens to build some things. Except I can't right now because I don't have enough spell points. Let's back out of the menu. One thing to note as well, if you are going to be playing this game on the Virtual Console, is because it is a Super Nintendo game, you will require either the classic controller, which is what I'm playing with, or if you have an original Wii, you can use GameCube controllers as well. One of the earlier run Wiis, I should say, not the newer ones like the Wii Mini and such. I'm playing this through a Wii U, so yeah, which doesn't have GameCube ports, so I am using the classic controller. I personally like the GameCube controller more, but you work with what you got, right? I'm going to do one other quick thing here as well, which I'll show you in a moment. The nice thing is, not all Japanese games were good for this. This one was. You can change this horrible message speed to instant. Yes. I hate that stupid drawing out with the noise thing. So here's what we're going to do. So now we've cleared a decent enough path. So you see here, you have your Let Us Listen, which is just to have the citizens talk to you, not particularly useful. Or what you can do is you can tell them, oi, this is where I want you to build. So let's go close off this layer. So what we do, we tell them to build. Now you're going to see there up beside my spell point meter is a little hourglass. So that's build timing. So basically every time that cycles, this happens. Your citizens will come out and start building. They can only build one section at a time. So they will continue to build as you direct, and they will build one section per sort of loop of that hourglass. And you'll see, there goes another one. Now, see another thing that happened there is that little annoying blue dragon. That little bugger doesn't do anything if you don't attack him normally, unless you start building near him, in which case he's just like, oh look, I can nuke your houses because I'm a dick that way. So that's what he does. So, they're saying they can now hunt. Please lead us to the monster lair. Yeah, way ahead of you there, dude. So what you want to do, ultimately, is clear all the monster lairs from the land. Now, you do not necessarily have to build up your town to fill in the entirety of the map in order to do that. So, you can or not. It is to your advantage to do so because you will get more experience and better score. Right. Your citizens as well will regularly come to you with little side missions to do, or just little things where they'll talk about and they'll be like, hey, this weird thing's kind of happening, and that always leads to something. There is always some kind of world event that you will end up having to deal with. So you see that guy said, something weird is emanating east of here. And there's another fun little mechanic. So this is the annoying part of these birds, is the birds, if they get over your citizens, will kidnap them. And if you don't shoot them down, they'll take them back to their lair and they'll do horrible things to them. Probably turn them into food or whatnot. So you don't have to save them if you don't want to, but that hurts your population. And you see the population meter is up there in the upper right beside your spell points. Greater population is good. This game encourages overpopulation, don't you know? So you see there that it said, oh god, look, a house is burning. Please send rain, because we haven't invented hoses yet. So first off, see we got the citizens over here sealing the monster lair. So this is the only thing that's a little bit annoying, and I imagine this is a technical limitation, is that when the town is building or a monster's lair is being sealed and you see that little status message there, you can still shoot creatures, but you can't bring up the menu and give orders, which can be a little bit of a pain. I always found this message kind of weird. It's like, hey, look, our noble people have sealed the monster's lair without our help. Well, no, not really. I had to clear the path and direct them over there, but... you know, I guess they want to... They need to be empowered. So, they need rain. Got to do the cloud-based fire department up in here. So, rain. Yoink! They cause the fire and then beg you to help them extinguish it. Yes, I know. A door? Yeah, well, if by a door you mean... detest, sure, but whatever, you know, we live and learn, right? So we're gonna clear out the rest of these bushes here, except I'm not paying attention and I don't have enough spell points. So you will end up with more spell points over time as your character advances, and it will become much easier to cast magical miracles and such with reckless abandon. So the town level went up as a result. I got to level 2. My hit points are now 9, so I got a little bit more health, and I will level again. This is why you want to max out your town before you take on the final boss. You don't have to if you want to either rush or make things a little bit more challenging for yourself. You can see by leveling up there as well, I got a boatload more spell points, so clearing out the rest of these bushes is going to be way easier. Haha, you flew into my storm, you sucker. And you really do want to, if at all, wow, you are a dumb bat. You really want to, if at all possible, max out your level. And you can do that simply by letting the citizens build your town out fully before you destroy all the monster lairs. And that, it's not a particularly difficult thing to do, but it's really to your benefit. And it will make the rest of the game much easier to do. So, what we're going to do, we're going to build out towards this thing. So, you can't just tell it to, hey, build out the entire map in this pattern I give you. You do have a limit, as you can see, to how far you can build. I built to the edge of the monster's lair and then a little bit further, and then it stopped me automatically there. So, you do have to try to manage your direction a little bit if you want, though it's not particularly hard to do that. You can sort of come back to it a little bit later on if you want and manage that. What? God! Magic power emanating from the big rock below the precipice southeast of here. Something must be buried there. Please use your powerful lightning to destroy this rock. What ho, you say? Potential treasure? I believe the rock under the precipice. I believe it's this precipice. Okay, so we sealed out of their monster lair, and what ho! They found something in the lair. we give you this statue as an offering. So, what is that? So, you have to... The offerings don't just appear for your use. You actually have to take it from them. So, we're going to go do that. What's that? Bomb! Pretty straightforward. It's a screen clearing item, and it's used in the city building world. So if you're getting a little bit ravaged by, you know, bats have taken a whole mess of your citizens or something like that at once, and you're like, I can't handle this with my arrows and stuff. You just hit that thing and everybody's gone. So, you know, it's kind of nice. But I never really needed it that much. I believe this is the rock they're talking about. Aha! Yes, it is. This may have revealed something very useful. A magic token, they say. Alright. Let me see that shiz. Magical fire. You know, they seem to be rather terrified of me, given how benevolent and kind I am. Yeah, the dragon, as you can see, is actually he's a little bit of a sneaky bugger. He'll just sort of quietly come up and destroy stuff, and he likes to twitch back and forth and dodge you. He can be a little bit of a twit that way. So we're gonna keep building this out here. So as you can see, this is why this video needed to be a little bit longer, is because explaining sort of the mechanics over the progression of a level here does take a little bit of time, but this is just so cool. I really think that this game was way ahead of its time in the day. I mean, the God game and RTS genres were not really that huge a deal yet in 1991 when this game came out in the US. And it was rather impressive, the ideas that they had in this and the complexity of a game that they pulled off on what it was essentially a launch game. It wasn't quite a launch game, this, but it was close. And this is really, really quite something at the time. Games were rarely this ambitious. And usually when you see... yes, we don't have the ability to build bridges yet, so we cannot take out the dragon just yet, but we can take that one out. You know, it was a very ambitious undertaking for a relatively small developer like Quintet to say, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take two genres that don't necessarily go well together and don't necessarily have a lot to do with each other. All right, another level up in here. All right. Usual scroll. Another offering. Sweet. Thanks, guys. So they did something with it, in my opinion, was crazy ambitious. They decided... Alright then. Another source of magic. They went, we are going to take two genres that don't really go together, at least not when you think of them, and we're going to find a way to blend them together. And they're not necessarily going to be the most deep of either of those genres, but they're gonna be fun, and they're gonna be put together enough that they're still entertaining and not boring, but also not overly complex. So if you're someone who either wasn't into stuff as complex as Populous, or you were into that, but just, you know, wanted a little bit of it broken up by action and whatnot, that's what you got out of this. And it was really cool, and it's weird to me that this game actually did pretty well at the time, but the only sequel that ever came out to this, which was called, appropriately enough, ActRaiser 2, was unfortunately nothing like this. They made it a pure action game. They completely stripped out the city building elements. And I don't know how well ActRaiser 2 did. I'm going to guess it didn't do nearly as well, because that's where this series ended. There's never been another ActRaiser since. The best we ever got is that in the mid-2000s, Square redid this original game for mobile phones, if you can believe it. This is even before smartphones were really a thing. And that was pretty much it. Nothing has been done with this property since, which is really a shame, because I think they could have done more with it. And to me, it kind of feels an awful lot like a publisher-based decision of basically Enix at the time going, hey, yeah, this game did okay, but people are really into that action stuff, and it could probably do a lot better if you just took out this silly little god game thing. Yeah, that's cute and all, and you guys had your fun, but now we want you to make yet another action game. And they did, and that's the thing, is ActRaiser 2 is not a bad action game, but it's the same basic action formula from this one, and they didn't really improve on it any. So, and that's the thing, as an action game mixed with a city building game, it's fine. The element of the action element in this is fine. It's competent, but nothing special. But when you take that element out and make it the entire focus of the game, and don't have it work in concert with anything else, it suddenly goes from being competent to kind of bad. And that's kind of what happened with ActRaiser 2. When you didn't have this really unique and fun city building element to complement the action, all you got was a mediocre action game, as opposed to a pretty neat and enveloping city building game that had some fun, but not stellar action elements to go along with it that were just sort of peppering the experience. So they kind of had a good chocolate and peanut butter formula, and then just turned it into kind of cheap chocolate. And that did no favors. And yeah, that's a shame. It really shouldn't have gone that way. But you're getting the idea here. This is getting a little bit, this is drawing out a little bit here, but what we're going to do is I'm going to seal up this monster. I probably won't build this area completely out, just so that I can sort of show you what happens in the late level progression here. We're starting to build out here, thankfully, so... But it's kind of neat, the town goes under construction, and you'll see people coming out, and they'll kind of fill things in different ways. They won't all necessarily build in the latest area. They'll kind of fill out old areas as well, and they'll fill in places that have been destroyed by the monsters. That part is sort of self-maintaining. You don't have to direct... You have to give your citizens a very general direction in which to build, but you don't have to tell them, build in this specific square, build on this dot and this dot and this dot, and put your farm here, and make sure that we have this many farms for this many people, etc., etc. You just say, build to these squares, and they take care of it from there, which is cool. Found something else. Strange bow and arrows. Upgrade, you say? Strength of Angel. Didn't we just talk to you? Jeez, you people are needy. Aha, so now that we've taken out all these monsters, now they know how to build bridges. Mighty excellent, folks. So you can also change your building direction if you want, based on where you've been going. So if you don't like the way they're going, or you want to change their direction, you can do that at any time. I haven't been here because I played this game enough times that I kind of have the optimal route planned out, I guess, if you want. But you're definitely able to do that and just sort of progress as you go here. So now this gets a little bit easier, because all we've got left is the blue dragons, who by and large aren't doing very much. So unfortunately, the people do have to seal the monster's lairs. I can't just do something like call lightning down on him and be like, hey. So actually, you know what? Out of habit there, I took a longer development route. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to send them back over this way. And as you can see there, if you select an area that you've already been to, it doesn't, the build pattern will just jump over that. You don't have to redevelop old areas, so it's smart like that, which is nice. Okay, so you want to talk to me again? Strange. Ooh. Ah! Cobras! Ah! Oh, minotaurs. They're not cobras, but they're still pretty bloody creepy. So yeah, this is a minotaur in a hole. Go down into the ground and destroy this gruesome monster before something terrible happens. And there's our setup for our second platforming area. And this is generally how things will progress. So you'll get to the... You'll get your town to the certain point where you've taken out all the monster layers and they've given you everything that they want to give you. And then, this is the cool part though. So this is where the monster is. I can either go down there and fight him, or I can sit here and build this town out, maximize everything out, get it right the way I like it, and then go and fight the monster. It's entirely up to you. And I like the fact that there's no pressure. It's not like, hey, there's a monster, you gotta go kill it right now. If you didn't build up beforehand, well, you're kind of boned. You gotta live with what you've got. I mean, yeah, that dude's having nightmares every night, and, you know, that kind of sucks for him. But, I mean, you know, we need more people, dang it. So I like the fact that it lets you sort of move at your own pace. And if you don't want to rush, you don't have to rush. It's not forcing you, and I think that's pretty cool. But since we're already up to half an hour here, I'm not going to fill this area out. I just got to wait till this is done to bring up the menu. Yeah, we did level up one more, at least. All right. So, we can either go back up to the Sky Palace if we want, but all that really is it gives you a lot of the same things. It does allow you to check on status and whatnot, and as well check on the master. As you can see, the game does keep track of the score that you got in the platforming sections. I mean, this is another game where it has a scoring system. They went to the trouble of making one, and yet there's no high score tracking. I mean, you can sort of see, you know, you can track it through here if you want, and, you know, sort of maintain your own stuff, but there is no high score tracking in this at all. So, I mean, again, it's nice that they put a score system in it, but it's also kind of pointless. So, I mean, I don't know. I still don't get why people do that, but... So, now that the big baddie's been found, we get some more Wicked Mode 7. And look at that! The Mode 7 is showing my town as it was developed. Like, holy bugger, attention to detail. Is that not awesome? It's actually showing, like, if my town was developed differently, it would actually display that differently. Oh, Yuzo Koshiro. The music is so awesome. And that, like, that's the only time you ever see that, is the little Mode 7 bit where it's like, hey, here's this cool effect where we're zooming down. But they actually went to the detail to analyze your map and go, hey, here, you're flying into your town as it looks. Totally not necessary. They could totally have just put a generic map there. No one would have... Few people would have noticed, fewer would have cared, and yet they still went to that level of detail. It just shows the amount of love that went into this game. Clearly, some designers at Quintet had a really awesome idea and managed to convince people at NX to let them try it, and they just went, we are going to make this thing gleam with polish, and we are going to put the most effort you could possibly think of into this. And that's why I love any game that's like that. Any game where you can just feel the creative passion and soul that went into it when you're playing it. There are games that just exude that practically from minute one, and this is one of them. I still think it's one of the best Super Nintendo games, and I still think it is an utter tragedy that this is one of only 2 ActRaiser games, and this is the only one that's like this, that has both the city building and the platforming, and that does this as well. This is clearly the kind of thing that Quintet was good at, and unfortunately for the sequel, they were forced to make basically Castlevania, but with this weird god character, and they just weren't... That was just not what they were best at, and I really think it's tragic when a talented group of people gets forced to do something that they're just not good at. That's kind of what happened. But yeah, this is the basics here. I mean, I'm not going to go through the rest of this level, I don't think, but you get the general idea here. This is a really cool, really unique experience on the Super Nintendo, or really on just about anything. Oh, maybe I will get through this level. And it's... If you're into the Super Nintendo, you should absolutely check it out. Or if you just want to see a prime example of a sort of genre-combining title that was, frankly, quite a ways ahead of its time, and really showed that things that you could do with a genre of gaming that was traditionally considered only for PC gamers, and how you could make it work on a home console and do it in a compelling way. This is it. It's a real shame that Quintet didn't get to survive in the long term. I would really love to have seen what these guys were able to do, especially in this day and age now, with indie development as it is now. I would love to see them, well, really anyone, but them in particular, take a crack at doing a modern game like this on newer platforms. I think there's a lot of potential in this idea. But yeah, that is ActRaiser, published by Enix, now known as Square Enix, and developed by Quintet, may they rest in peace, in 1991, well, 1990 in Japan, 1991 for the Super Nintendo. You can acquire this on the Virtual Console, which is really awesome. I'm really glad that Square Enix decided to put that out here. Look at that background! Look at that background! Now, let's see if I can get through this guy here. This guy has a pretty easy pattern as well, I do recall. However, I have to be able to time it worth a dang, which I'm not. I might just be able to stab him faster than he can damage me. Oh, I just barely saved myself there. So yeah, that is ActRaiser. It is a gem. It is one of the best Super Nintendo games, and if you have any interest in the system at all, I absolutely recommend that you check it out. I think you will have a really good time with it. It's not particularly difficult, at least not the city building bit, but sometimes it's nice to have just a good, easy experience, and it puts a smile on my face even now. I think I'm going to have to sit down and finish this game again. My name has been Parallax Abstraction. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you next time.